You are watching the Big D Breakdown, part of the Highwire Media Network. I'm your host, Larry Lease. In today's episode, we're diving into the latest headlines from around AT&T Stadium. Before we do that, give us a thumbs up if you like our video, hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell notification button, and be notified of future videos. And with that, let's dive into our first topic. And we're going to begin this episode talking about the Trey Lance trade that looks even worse after a recent concerning update from Cowboy reporters. Let's pump the brakes on the Trey Lance hype for now, okay? Dallas Cowboy fans have waited in earnest for the Trey Lance trade to pay off. It initially received glowing reviews, but it has aged like a glass of skim milk. A fourth-round pick seemed like a fair price for Lance, but it's become clear that the Cowboys overpaid. Other quarterbacks from the 2021 draft were traded after Lance, including Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Though Wilson and Jones have been disappointments, both of them have showed more than Lance. The Jets got a mere 6th-round pick in return for Wilson and also sent a 7th-rounder to the Broncos, while the Patriots settled for a 6th-rounder for Jones. While Lance has more upside than Wilson and Jones, the Cowboys absolutely jumped the gun by offering a 4th. After effectively redshirting in 2023, Lance looked a different player in spring practices. Mike McCarthy praised Lance's command of the offense, and the quarterback's new throwing motion, courtesy of McCarthy, has vastly improved in his timing on routes. There's growing buzz that Lance will beat out Cooper Rush in training camp for the right to back up Prescott. That would be the ideal scenario, but multiple Cowboy team reporters aren't buying the hype. A quartet of Cowboy reporters, including Mickey Spagnola, Nick Eatman, Patrick Walker, and Kurt Daniels, were asked if Lance can supplant Rush as the backup. While Walker is keeping an open mind going into camp, Eatman and Daniels aren't as bullish on the former number 3 overall pick. Eatman said, quote, "I think I'd be surprised if Lance was actually better than Rush when we're done with camp and preseason. That doesn't mean the Cowboys wouldn't make him the backup, because it seems as if they'd want it to play out that way. But Rush has been better in the brief things we've seen in the offseason." And then Daniels wrote, quote, "The Cowboys know what they got in Rush, who is considered one of the better backups in the NFL. Although he's not going to give you anything flashy, he knows the offense and consistently has gotten the job done. Unless Lance really jumps off the page this August, I would think they stick with what they know." And those are very fair assessments from Eatman and Daniels. Lance's draft status and upside has led folks to forget just how steady Rush is. Yes, Rush's ceiling is limited, but he has a full understanding of McCarthy's offense and more experience than Lance. The 30-year-old started 50 games in college at Central Michigan and appeared in 26 games as a pro. He's also 5-1 in 6 starts for the Cowboys, filling in for an injured Prescott, proving he can keep the team afloat without its star quarterback. Since 2020, Lance has attempted 132 passes between college and the NFL. That's a 4-year sample size. Lance hasn't been poor by any stretch in his limited playing time as a pro, but it would be a roll of the dice by the Cowboys to pick Lance's upside over a proven commodity in Rush. Who knows? Maybe Lance shines in camp and preseason and wins the job outright, and the Cowboys trade Rush to a backup needy team. It's certainly a possibility, but would anyone be shocked if Rush keeps his place as number 2 and Lance becomes expendable? Nobody's saying to abandon hope in Lance, but perhaps fans should temper expectations until they see Lance actually play in a more competitive setting than OTAs and minicamp. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on Trey Lance with the Cowboys? And now we're going to talk about a free agent star that Dak Prescott could help the Cowboys land, for Mike Zimmer. The Dallas Cowboys have attributed their dormant offseason to the salary cap and looming contract extensions for Prescott and Lamb. Both are lame excuses, but fans will be able to stomach the front office's lack of aggression if they lock up Prescott and Lamb by training camp. Quiet off-seasons have become the norm in Dallas, so much so that the hiring of Mike Zimmer to replace Dan Quinn as defensive coordinator generated more excitement than any roster move the Cowboys have made, excluding draft picks. While Zimmer inherits a talented, soaked defense, it's fair to question if he's set up for success. The defensive tackle room is one of the worst in the NFL, and the linebacker room is as top-heavy as it is inexperienced and reliant on recent draft picks. Zimmer's defenses historically have fared well against the run, but the Cowboys are asking to stumble again in January if they don't add another nose tackle. A trade might be the most realistic path to add a difference maker, but in the meantime there are free agents at other positions that would make Zimmer's life easier. And there's one free agent in particular that could find his way to Dallas thanks to Dak Prescott. Star free agent Justin Simmons has been linked to the Cowboys thanks to Prescott. A 4-time second-team All-Pro safety, Justin Simmons is a free agent after an 8-year stint with the Broncos. The 30-year-old posted a clip over the weekend from his annual youth football camp and was rocking a Dallas hat from Prescott's signature hat. Prescott partnered with True branding collaboration with his Faith Fight Finish Foundation. It was a limited edition sale in 2023, signed by Prescott, which makes it all the more noteworthy that Simmons has one. Safety is one of the Cowboys' strongest positions, but no contender should turn its nose up at adding high-level players, and Simmons has been either a Pro Bowler or All-Pro for 5 seasons running. The former third-round pick led all safeties in 2023 with 6 interceptions and 14 interceptions since 2021, which trail only Trayvon Diggs for the most in the NFL. Simmons is a big play waiting to happen, but his fit on the Cowboys is questionable at best. He plays mostly as a deep-lying safety. That role belongs to Malik Hooker, who had another strong season in 2023 with a 71.3 coverage grade and 89 run defense grade per PFF. While Dallas doesn't have another true free safety, Donovan Wilson, Marquise Bell, and Gianni Thomas round out one of the deepest safety rooms in the league. If healthy, Wilson will play close to 80% of the snaps, and Bell and Thomas played well enough last year to be entrusted with a bigger role. Bell made 94 tackles after converting to linebacker midseason, and Mike McCarthy all but confirmed that Thomas deserves more playing time. Simmons would be a fun pairing with Zimmer, but signing a 30-year-old safety who's likely demanding a high price would be a questionable use of resources given the money is tight and Dallas has 2 rock-solid veterans and a pair of up-and-coming studs at the position. And with that, we dive into our next topic. The Cowboys fans' worst Ezekiel Elliott fears are coming true in a worrying 2024 projection. The Cowboys are in for a long season if this is going to happen. Ezekiel Elliott's release last offseason was a bitter pill for Dallas Cowboy fans to swallow. While it unquestionably was the right move, Elliott deserves a better send-off. His final contribution, for a lack of a better term, in a Cowboys uniform was lining up at center on the final play of Dallas's 2023 playoff loss against the 49ers. Elliott got pancaked, and the play itself was a disaster. As it turns out, Elliott will get one last hurrah with the Cowboys after he signed a 1-year contract worth essentially the vet minimum. Jerry Jones teased the move for weeks before it was official, including during the NFL draft, which oddly wasn't utilized by Dallas to add a running back. With Elliott returning, folks are eager to know how the backfield carries will get split up. Will Rico Dowdle get promoted to number 1 after an impressive season last year? Will free agent pickup Royce Freeman ascend up the depth chart in training camp? It makes for a captivating next couple of months. In the meantime, ESPN's Mike Clay projected the 2024 season in full for all 32 teams. Clay thinks Dallas has a greater than 50% win probability in 16 to 17 games, but one prediction in particular sticks out like a sore thumb. Clay thinks that Elliott will lead the Cowboys in rushing with 751 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's solid production, but that also means Zeke will lead the way with 191 carries. In Clay's projection, fan favorite Rico Dowdle will receive 113 carries, a whopping 73 behind the elder statesman. Elliott holds a special place in Cowboy fans' hearts, but this projection is something that nobody wants to see in 2024. While 191 carries would by far be Elliott's lowest tally as a member of the Cowboys, he's been on a downward trajectory since the 2021 season. Over the last 4 seasons, Zeke has averaged 3.87 yards per attempt. The two-time rushing champ handled 184 carries last year for the Patriots. While that offense couldn't get out of its own way, Elliott posted a career-low 3.5 yards per carry. The advanced stat looks even worse. Elliott's 69.2 rushing grade last season ranked 28th out of 30 qualified running backs per PFF. He also was 25th in yards after contact per carry, 29th in missed tackles forced, and dead last in explosive runs, which are rushes of 10 or more yards. To top it off, Zeke was bottom 10 in rushing yards over expected and bottom 15 in rushing efficiency per next-gen stats. In a vacuum, Elliott is still a serviceable player. He'd be perfect as a short yardage complement to a youngster who's just entering their prime. Problem is, the Cowboys don't have another proven back on the roster, which makes Elliott the presumptive favorite to pace the offense in carries. That was a bad idea in 2022. The fact it could manifest itself in 2024 is complete lunacy. And now, we're going to take a look at 3 reasons why we fans should be pessimistic about the Cowboys in 2024. As we all know, being a Dallas Cowboys fan is tough, but it seems optimism flows through Cowboys Nation throughout the season. And we're going to dive into 3 reasons you shouldn't be too comfortable heading into the 2024 season. When times are tough, hope and optimism can push you through adversity. However, it's more difficult when you can't directly change anything. That's the problem that Dallas Cowboy fans have had for years. There are some reasons to be optimistic heading into the 2024 season. That doesn't mean everything is roses and daisies in Cowboys land. For those looking for one or more reasons to keep the perception of Dallas more realistic, we're going to look at 3 reasons heading into the 2024 season. Number 3, the Cowboys aren't going all in. Having a competitive team is very entertaining. The Cowboys have been one of the most competitive teams since 2014, making the playoffs 6 out of the 10 seasons, and owning a combined regular season record of 98 wins and 65 losses. Despite the numerous opportunities to make a deep run in the playoffs, Dallas has failed to appear in the NFC Conference Championship and owns a 3-6 record in the postseason since 2014. All 3 wins have come in the wildcard round. Repeated success in the regular season with no playoff success leaves the fan base starving for more. Accolades outside of the playoffs are gradually diminishing in value year over year. With hope dwindling, owner Jerry Jones sparked hope within the organization, making his infamous all-in quote. With the 1 year remaining on the contract of quarterback Dak Prescott and head coach Mike McCarthy, it seemed believable that Jerry would put all his chips into a push to win a championship this year and restart the franchise in 2025. Most teams with that mentality would chase high-end players on the trade market and in free agency. Unfortunately, that only resulted in the signing of linebacker Eric Kendricks. While he is a solid contributor to most teams and will likely be a starter throughout the year, he's not the big splash fans were hoping for. At 32 years old and with 9 seasons under his belt, Kendricks alone is not enough to turn the team around. While having a reliable veteran starter in a position of need will help Dallas, adding a star who can add to an already star-studded roster would help put them over the top. There is not much regarding options at a position of need available. The best option right now is to bring back guard center Connor Williams after his stint in Miami to stabilize the offensive line. And number 2, volatility on the Cowboys' offensive line. Football is without a doubt a team sport. All the players on the team must pitch in to help the team win. While having individual stars helps push the needle more, weaknesses on the roster can be exploited. That is especially true along the offensive line. Having holes along the offensive line allows the opposing defense to break through and either blow up a run play or get to the quarterback. With defensive coordinators consistently looking to attack the weak spot, having one bad offensive lineman has a bigger impact than having one star offensive lineman. Superstar left tackle Tyron Smith and solid starting center Tyler Biadasz left in free agency, leaving the Cowboys to put those starting snaps in the hands of rookies. The cover-up plan can work, especially long-term, but it adds more uncertainty to a team that had it plentiful already. Rookie left tackle Tyler Guyton was Dallas's first-round pick in the 2024 draft, but was regarded as a longer-term upside prospect. Between his need to clean up his play, shifting from right tackle to left tackle, and being a rookie, a lot must go right for the Oklahoma product to succeed. Tyler Smith at left guard is the most reliable spot on the offensive line. He's an all-pro caliber guard with no serious injury issues and is still young at 23 years old. There's one player you want starting between two rookies, it's him. Cooper Beebe is expected to be another rookie starting for the Cowboys. He would be the team's center. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein describes him as a model of consistency, a great trait. The concerns are the lack of experience at the center spot and his small frame. They can be exploited by larger defensive tackles. At right guard, none performed better than Zach Martin since he came into the league in 2014. Cooper has been consistently good in college. Martin has been consistently dominant in the NFL. The trick is, he is now 33 years old and entering his 11th season after playing the worst he has in his career, although that's still an all-pro level. The biggest concern that is known is Terrence Steele at right tackle. He used to be a very reliable run blocker and decent pass blocker, but penalty troubles and speed rushers getting around his edge have caused issues for quarterback Dak Prescott. The margin for error has significantly increased for the offensive line in Dallas. While that doesn't mean it will be a disaster, it should be an area you keep a close eye on. The group must play better than expected if the Cowboys are to have a successful regular season and hopefully a better playoff run. And finally, at number 1, if nothing changes, nothing changes. In the regular season, the Cowboys have been one of the best teams in the NFL. In the postseason, they've been one of the worst. Over the past decade, the Cowboys have been a similar team, despite some changes to their roster and coaching staff. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Win through the offense, outscore the opponent, and make the quarterback play his tail off. It's the same issues that have come up since the time of Tony Romo. The team's failure to play together when it mattered most has cost them time and time again. In the 18 playoff games since winning a Super Bowl after the 95 season, Dallas turned the ball over in all but 2 games. Their record with a turnover in that time span, 4-12. Dallas took the ball away in 11 of the 18 games. Of the 5 wins in their last 18 playoff games, the Cowboys took the ball away in 4 of them. The turnover battle has a lot to do with which team is put under pressure or who is trailing and is forced to throw the ball. Giving up the lead early and allowing the other team to dictate the pace of the game while you try to catch up is a dangerous situation. Dallas trailed at halftime in all 5 of their recent playoff losses. Former head coach Jason Garrett and offensive coordinator Kellen Moore were notorious for not adapting and having the team fall apart when it mattered. Now, current head coach Mike McCarthy and his lackluster management of the clock are haunting the team. Stopping the run has been a problem since former defensive coordinator Rod Marinelli left in 2019. Seems like a problem for the team comes up, haunts the team for around 5 seasons, and is then replaced by another. With changes to personnel, coaching, and analytics, one has been around through everything: the front office. Owner Jerry Jones understandably controls the team as he desires. He manages the Cowboys like it's the franchise mode in Madden. It's not that Jerry doesn't know anything about managing in the league and how to make a successful team, but he doesn't know everything. A normal GM would have been fired long ago, but an owner gets to do what he wants. His son Steven has had a positive impact on the team, aka drafting OG Zach Martin over quarterback Johnny Manziel, but it's hard not to believe Jerry is pulling the strings regardless. This won't happen, but the Jones family needs to swallow their pride and bring in someone who can make meaningful decisions apart from them. For the sake of not being successful in the playoffs for 28 consecutive years, someone outside the family should take control on the personnel duties. That's the real change. Let me know your thoughts on the topics we covered in the comment section below. And don't forget, give us a thumbs up if you like our video. Hit the bell notification button down below and hit the subscribe button. And now we're going to discuss 3 potential suitors for Dak Prescott that the Cowboys should be worried about. Dak Prescott is entering his last year under contract with the Cowboys, and even with training camp right around the corner, the 2 sides have not come to any kind of agreement on a new deal. With every day that passes, there is an albeit small higher chance that 2024 is Prescott's last year in Dallas. the most obvious path for Dallas is simply giving Prescott a fair market contract to continue piloting the franchise. But with how Jerry Jones has done business in the past, there's a small chance the Cowboys will lowball Prescott, leading him to test the open market. That would be the worst case scenario for the Cowboys. There are several teams that project to be very quarterback hungry next offseason. If Dallas cannot get a deal done, now that the team is only opening the door for more competition. So, at number 1, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are rolling the dice with two polarizing quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Both quarterbacks are one-year flyers, and if they do not work out for the team in 2024, then Pittsburgh's right back to the drawing board. With a talented defense and Hall of Fame head coach, the Steelers likely are not going to want to take a risk at developing another quarterback. Thus, it makes sense for the Steelers to make a splash and be the highest bidder for Prescott if he hits the market. The Steelers are projected to have over $77 million in cap space next offseason, which is the third most in the NFL as it stands today. That makes them a real threat. And number 2, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders have been in quarterback purgatory since moving on from Derek Carr, and in 2024, the team will roll out Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as the two best quarterback options. Vegas is in a bad spot where the team is quarterback hungry but might not be bad enough to get a top pick in next year's draft. Thus, the only option becomes spending and free agency, which opens the door for Prescott to potentially slide in and be the franchise guy. The Raiders are currently projected to have just over $24 million in cap space next season, but they have huge financial flexibility with several cuttable contracts next offseason. The Raiders prove that they are a quarterback away from contending, and they offer Prescott the most money. It could be a threat. And then you have the New York Giants at number 3. The 2024 season represents Daniel Jones' last chance to prove he can be a consistent starting NFL quarterback. If he cannot prove that this season, then the Giants will almost certainly cut bait with the former first-round pick, bringing up $19.3 million in cap space in the process. If that were to happen, the Giants would have $41.5 million in cap space, and that is before making any other cost-cutting moves. And without a concrete cap projection, Dallas has had a chance to sign Prescott. The team certainly has the means to create the salary cap space. New York may not seem like the most intriguing destination, especially since the Giants are a division rival. That could change depending on how the 2024 season goes. Brian Daboll does appear to be a good head coach, and the Giants may have drafted a legitimate franchise receiver in Malik Neighbors. Those two things, along with a fat contract, give Prescott plenty of reason to potentially consider New York. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Where do you think Prescott will end up next year? Do you think he'll stick with the Cowboys? Or do you see him on another team? Let me know what team you think he should be on. And with that, we dive into our next topic. We're going to predict the Cowboys' 53-man roster going into training camp. So, the real question is, who's making the Cowboys' 53-man roster this season? So starting off with the theme of the 2024 season for the Cowboys, it's looking like it might be do more with less. The Cowboys aren't exactly gutted of all their talent, but the boat is taking on a lot of water after all the holes that were left behind by departed free agents. It's not a rebuilding year in Dallas, but the Stars are going to be asked to carry this team even more than they already have. With a new defensive coordinator coming in and a ton of pressure on Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, what is this Cowboys roster going to look like in 2024? Let's make our pre-training camp roster predictions for the Cowboys team that is going to look a lot different this year than it has over the last 3 or 4 years. So, we're going to start at the quarterback position. It's going to be Dak Prescott and Trey Lance. The biggest difference here is that Cooper Rush is no longer in the equation. The offseason updates have been pretty positive regarding Trey Lance, and unfortunately for Rush, I think we've probably seen the best of what he can bring to the table. He's been a solid backup for the Cowboys, but it's time for this team to add to the practice workload of Trey Lance and keep moving his overall progression forward. Next up, for your specialists, we got Brandon Aubrey at kicker, Brian Anger at punter, and Trent, apologies for butchering his name, Stieg at long snapper. There won't be any surprises here for the Cowboys as the specialist group doesn't currently have any competition. The Cowboys are set here and don't have to worry about any of these guys. The specialist positions are on autopilot. And running back, We have Ezekiel Elliott, Rico Dowdle, Hunter Lupke, and Deuce Vaughn. The biggest update to the running back position this offseason has been the return of Ezekiel Elliott, the former first-round pick that the Cowboys probably never really wanted to move on from in the first place. With Pollard off to the Titans and free agencies, how are the Cowboys going to supplement depth at the running back position? This position group wasn't exactly a strength of this team last year, and while Elliott is still capable, he's not the same guy from 4 or 5 years ago. And of course, at wide receiver, we have CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Tolbert, Cavante Turpin, Ryan Flournoy, and Jalen Brooks. The only move the Cowboys made to really upgrade the wide receiver position this offseason was drafting Ryan Flournoy in the 6th round this spring. Otherwise, they maintained the status quo. We saw some nice progression as the season wore along last year from Brandon Cooks in the Cowboys offense, and he had some big games after struggling to get off the ground early last year. The team is still banking on the development of third-year player Jalen Tolbert, who flashed his potential last year with 22 catches and a pair of touchdowns. The Cowboys have a lot of talent and athleticism at this position, but they need Cooks to take more pressure off of CeeDee Lamb than he did last year. Then at tight ends, we have Jake Ferguson, Luke Shoemaker, and Brevin Spanford. Even though the Cowboys were hoping for a big year from rookie Luke Shoemaker, they got a nice breakout campaign from Jake Ferguson in the first year without Dalton Schultz in Dallas. Ferguson emerged as one of the Cowboys' top weapons in the passing game with 71 catches and 5 touchdowns en route to a Pro Bowl selection. But the growing pains need to be over for Luke. He has to be a factor this coming season. The Cowboys also gave a hefty guarantee of $200,000 to undrafted rookie Brevin Spanford, who could be the next UDFA success story for the team. And then we have the offensive line. We got Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, Chuma Udoga, Asim Richards, Matt Waletzko, Brock Hoffman, and TJ Bass. Of course, apologies to Cowboy fans and players if I butcher your name. The Tyron Smith era is over for the Dallas Cowboys, and the Tyler Guyton era begins. The Cowboys are putting a lot on the plate of the rookie offensive tackle, but he's got a good one playing next to him in left guard Tyler Smith. Smith will be relied upon heavily by not just one, but 2 rookies on the offensive line this season. Cooper Beebe is expected to win the starting center job, replacing the departed Tyler B. Although replacing Tyron Smith is not going to be easy, it's possible the Cowboys actually upgraded at center. This team has a number of intriguing young players behind the starting 5 that they should continue to develop as well. And then, of course, we got the defensive line. We got Micah Parsons edge, DeMarcus Lawrence edge, Osa Udowizi, Mozzie Smith, Marshawn Nealand edge, Sam Williams is edge, Carl Davis, Chauncey Golston, William Fahoko at edge, and Justin Rogers. The Dallas Cowboys have talent on their defensive front, but they are going to be calling on new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer to help get 2023 first-round pick Mozzie Smith back on track. The Cowboys had him underweight and out of position last year, and they'll try to get him back on course in 2024 and back to the dominating play we saw at Michigan. The big addition to this unit in 2024 is second-round pick Marshawn Nealand, someone who should play a reserve role this season, but could take over the starting job opposite Micah Parsons as early as 2025. And then at linebacker, Eric Kendricks, DeMarvion Overshawn, Maurice Lufau, Damone Clark, and Willie Harvey. The Dallas Cowboys almost completely overhauled the off-ball linebacker position this offseason. Eric Kendricks is coming in as the coach on the field for Mike Zimmer from their time together in Minnesota. This position group includes wildcards galore. DeMarvion Overshawn was a third-round pick just last year, but suffered an ACL injury and was working his way back to full strength. Is he going to be able to contribute in the starting lineup defensively this season, or will he be limited to sub-packages and special teams? The Cowboys also went after Notre Dame linebacker Maurice Lefau in the 3rd round of this year's draft. Somewhat of a surprising pick, but a player who could fit the Anthony Barr type role that Mike Zimmer likes in his scheme. He is the type of player with his hair on fire and showed at Notre Dame that he can not only attack the line of scrimmage, but he can drop into coverage effectively as well. Willie Harvey could be the next interesting option for the Cowboys coming up from the UFL. They've had success pulling guys from other pro leagues in recent years, and Harvey was the UFL leader in tackles, tackles for loss, passes broken, and forced fumbles. And then, finally, cornerback. We got Trayvon Diggs, Daron Bland, Jordan Lewis, Kalen Carson, Eric Scott, and Gayron Conley. The Cowboys have a strong group of cornerbacks if everyone can stay healthy, but the longer Stephon Gilmore sits there in free agency, the more you start to wonder. There is a lot of feast or famine with Trayvon Diggs and Daron Bland at the outside cornerback position. Both Diggs and Bland have reputations for giving up a lot of yards, but we all know they can also pick off a lot of passes. The Cowboys are taking a risk having those two on the field at the same time without someone like Gilmore to raise the floor at the position, but it might be a risk worth taking. One of the most interesting stories to monitor throughout the course of training camp is going to be the progression of former first-round pick Gayron Conley. The Cowboys got a look at Conley and DeAndre Baker this offseason as former first-round pick reclamation projects, and Conley is getting a shot. And then finally, safety. We got Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, Thomas, and Marquise Bell. Notably missing from this list is Israel Mukiamu, who simply may not be a fit for what new defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer wants to do. There's no doubt that if he hits free agency, that Dan Quinn would give him a call out in Washington. Otherwise, this is a really good group for the Cowboys, and we know all four of these guys are capable of making game day contributions. Hooker, Wilson, and Bell each played at least 650 snaps last season. Thomas played over 500, including his 315 special team snaps. The Cowboys have a very talented secondary, and if Zimmer can get the defensive front cooking, this unit is going to cause a lot of problems on the back end. Before we go, give us your thoughts on the topics we covered in the comment section below, and of course, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification button to be notified of future videos, and of course, if you want to support this channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/thebigd. Your support helps the channel grow, upgrade our equipment, bring in new hosts, be able to pay them, and take this show on the road. And with your support, whether it's $1, $5, $10, $50, no matter what it is, your support can help make this all happen. So, with that, we'd like to thank you so much for watching and listening. And don't forget, you can find us on all major podcast platforms. And of course, YouTube every Thursday. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.